So let's start with Quatrain 54.
Okay, well, I start reading it. I tell thee this, when starting from the goal, over the shoulders of the flaming fall, of heaven Parvin and Mushtari they flung in my pedestrian plot of dust and soul. And the paraphrase, it goes like this. In a cosmic vision, I beheld how all beings, including myself, first emerged from the blazing furnace of cosmic energy. I perceived how God, according to his perfect plan, gave us perishable bodies, but imperishable souls. How he made the prototype of our human bodies and stamped our souls with his imperial image of perfection. Having created us in his image, he also gave us intelligence and the free choice to identify ourselves with either the body or the soul. The body as we have chosen it to be, a pleasure palace or a temple of the universal spirit. The choice is ours, and it marks the extent or our free will. God placed us on this cosmic stage with the promise that if we scorn the delusive pleasure of the senses and concentrated our attention on the finer soul perceptions, we should return to him and live with him in joy for all eternity. And to be honest, I read this and I went through this like 2 weeks ago, so I didn't really go deep into the keys to meaning. But when I was reading the paraphrase, I highlighted some key words and key sentences, such as how God, according to his perfect plan, and free choice to identify ourselves with either the body or the soul. And here I understand the body as the physical form of identity. And then he mentioned the free will and the cosmic stage. What it came to me was the analogy of a film, the analogy of a movie, right? Where he says that how God, according to his perfect plan, where God is actually the director of the movie, and the plan is the script, how the movie is gonna play, and the actors are ourselves. We have the choice to identify ourselves with our actor nature, which is the soul, or the character, which is the body or the character, but we are here playing. And they said what places us in this cosmic stage, which is the movie setting. And then it says that it's our choice to really identify with, the character we are playing, or true nature. That's the analogy that I that came up to me to understand the text, because an actor or an actress, when it's playing the character, really knows what he or the true nature, and it's just playing the character, but it doesn't feel identified with the character. It's just it's just a play, it's just a movie. Oh, I'm playing this character, but I'm not that character. And sometimes when I hear actresses speaking, they say that at the beginning, when they started their career, it's hard for them to do this split between themselves and the character that they are playing. And somehow it kind of relates to this, here it's me playing the character of Julia, who was born in Spain, but that's not truly me. It's not that my true identity. And that's the analogy that it came up to me in my mind to really understand in a better way this quatrain. And when he says about that God gave us the free will, and yes, we do have free will between the lines of the script, and the script is the life purpose that we just came here to play. And that's that was the movie that came in my mind to understand these keywords.
You know what? I think he brings up in this, I mean, this is something throughout the whole spiritual path, through all spiritual literature. It comes back again and again to this question of how much free will have we? Are we really free to make choices, or is it all predestined? And that question is very difficult one to answer satisfyingly, you know, but he says it the way here. He says essentially this much, we have essentially this much: to accept God or to reject him, to accept eternal truth or to reject it, to accept true joy or to reject it, to accept love or to reject it. And you could say to walk the upward path or to choose the path toward the ego or to pleasure and reactionary behavior. And or the way I like to often think of is we can either look in the light, toward the light, or we can look away from the light. And so in a sense, but you know, everything else you might say is there's some destiny to it all, predestined. We create our destiny. But it's a question that is eternally being asked, you know, because intellectually it seems that we really don't have much free will if everything's predestined. But in some way, our sense of who we are says we do have free will. And so it's this conflict between these two points of view that it's an eternal question. And I think philosophers, you know, are always in some way, it's at the base of so much of what we do on the spiritual path, this play between those two. And I think I take it the way he says, we have a choice to look to the light in every situation, every moment, or not. And I think that's what Omar is saying here too. But if Omar says it very symbolically in this, I found these keys to meaning very interesting. It never even occurred to me what he was talking about in the keys to meaning when I read it. But it shows that he was the astronomer for the Persian Empire. So he brought that in. Any other comments out there? Okay.
I thought it was interesting that Julia started talking about directors and movies. And like you pointed out, Jayaji, this Quatrain it has so much to do with astronomy. The first that come to my mind was like, you know, movie stars and like how we compare like, you know, the main actors in any movies to like celestial bodies. And this one was talking about astronomy. So I don't know, that was my 2 cents there.
So how would you sum this up in a couple of sentences, Julia?
I will sum it up as follows. You choose whether you want to identify with your soul's unlimited divine nature or your human limited condition.
Yep, that sums it up. The choice is always ours, and we have eternity in which to make that choice. Okay, any other comments? We'll go on to the next one. Okay, do you have number 55 also, or who's that one, Blizzy?
The next one, two.
Oh.
I think Julia has one more.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Question 55, divine and instructor 5, which about if cleanse my being, let Sophie float, of my base metal may be filled a key that shall unlock the door he holds without. My spinal paraphrase, my spinal tree has sent its roots into the soul, nourishing soul of cosmic consciousness. Now I live centered in that truth. What matters if theory, other theologians scoff at me? What matter? How that deep within me my soul sings. Of the base metal of my erstwhile worldly life, let a new shape be filled, a door key of the hidden garden of self-realization. What theologian could define truth in such a way as to increase my faith? And what theologian could propose a single argument that may diminish it? Intellectuality cannot produce the sturdy oak of wisdom. Only spare tumbleweed of shallow thoughts can survive in the dry desert of matter consciousness. Ideas nourished by the human brain hold up their branches of conjecture, dried and brittle to an indifferent sun. Their pretense of wisdom is buffeted daily by sandstorms of self-doubt, proud indignation, the wind's moaning accompaniment, harsh gales of discontentment, and intermittent cloudbursts of misery, producing flash floods that overwhelm without nourishing the parched and cracking soul.
That was quite a statement.
Yes, with a few words in the middle, a little bit difficult to pronounce, but anyway, I think what he's saying that is once you achieve God's realization, everything else doesn't really matter, whether theologians or whether they may say that the intellect is limited to address the vastness of God. And and once you search self-realization, you have everything. You don't really mind what some intellectual interpretations of it may say, because you already know the truth within.
That's exactly the same thing I came to when I read this, is that it doesn't matter. Once you know, you know. And if you know, whatever anybody says, it's not going to cast any shadow on that, because you know. If you've seen something with your own experience, it's not theoretical anymore. It's reality, and you have that firm conviction. And that's, when we speak about divine things, we speak about divinity, we speak about God, people are usually speaking from theory, from philosophy. And the challenge for us as devotees is to go beyond that. And then he who knows, he knows. And that's the state we want to get to, is that assurance from our own personal experience. And that's what the masters came for, is to give us that ability to get to that point. That's very good. Any comments out there, Lizzie?
Yes, JG, I was just reminded on listening to this quatrain of Christ's words to his disciples. They were saddened, at the upcoming crucifixion, and he tells them, in this world you will have trials and tribulations, but be of good cheer, for I have overcome the world. And like Omar Khayyam says here, this is a way to be in the world, but not of it, that it's only when your soul is singing and you're the life force, your prana, your energy is in the spine, that gives you the strength to rise above obstacles, self-doubt, criticisms, persecutions. We wonder sometimes at our level of consciousness, how can man face it? But and here is the solution. Here is the way to overcome.
Yeah, it's like he says here in the Keys of Meaning, he howls without, and he writes, theologians believe in religion, but very few of them seek to experience its truths. So you can believe in anything, but you can't necessarily experience anything. You experience truth as truth, and that's what we want to experience. Any additional thoughts?
Jayaji, Omar has used the word. Hello.
Hi.
Sorry. Jayaji, Omar has used this word. He howls without.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I see theologians here in the last paragraph just now you read. They believe in religion, but very few of them seek to experience its truths. So, but the howls without, howls, I feel it is a very harsh word. Howling, it is considered to be a bad omen. Sometimes village people believe when the dog is howling or something, they say some bad news they are expecting.
Yeah.
So Yeah, harsh words. I don't know whether Edward Herald used it or Omar used it. I'm not sure.
Well, I think he was pretty harsh, you know, he was being very, very firm, you know, and I think he was intentionally being harsh, you know, scoffing at them, you know, yeah. So Yulia, how would you sum that up? Or did you already? I forgot.
No, I didn't. I didn't set my 2 lines, which are true wisdom doesn't rely on intellectual abilities alone. It's transpersonal, coming from inner communion with God.
Yeah, yeah. That's a strong state. Yeah, that sums it up strongly. Okay, let's move on. Nariti,
Nariti.
or is there further comment?
Good evening, Jayadi. Good evening to everyone. This is Quatrain 56. And this I know, whether the one true light kindle to love or wrath consume me quite. One glimpse of it within the tavern court, better than in the temple lost outright. And the paraphrase says, this much is forever certain, whether wisdom fills me with universal compassion and make me yearn to lead souls out of darkness into the eternal light, or whether it fire me with resolution to destroy my ego and its selfish desires, it is essential that I live inspired and guided by thee. In thy light I thrive, outside of thee I forever languish. Far better a single glimpse of cosmic consciousness within the tavern of this body, the vision obtained by quaffing the wine of bliss in meditation, than to lose these precious years of life in mere outward worship. What a travesty of religion to allow the sweetness of thy inner silence to be drowned in the clang and hubbub of temple lectures, theologians, arguments, and noisy rituals. I think it's a continuity of what we've done. We've just had in the previous quatrains. And here Omar, he's trying to say that, there's that divine light or the God within that I need to connect with. And he says, let's not search for the happiness or the eternal bliss in the temples or mosques or, outside in the pilgrimage, in those religious scriptures and all that. It's all inside us. We just got to go within, and we could do that with, meditation. So commune with God and be in eternal bliss. I think that is what he's trying to say. And he says, whether I am given the, but once I connect with that true light, whether I should serve everyone by spreading be the light to the other people, the guiding light for them to connect with themselves, or whether it is to, just do away with my ego and the selfish desires and just go inside and be guided by that inner light which is there. So that is, I think, what he is saying. So, and then he says, what a mockery they made out of religion. Some of these, people who it's like fanatics. We can call them fanatics. They are just telling you do this, do that. What Salvaraji was just telling. He just said. I think he's just trying to say that, all this is just all very confusing. Yeah. We don't really need to do all that. We don't have to do anything actually. We just need to go in, and best way, as our master said, that we can do that if we just meditate more and connect with the light within, and it just we have to live from inside out, I guess.
It's interesting, like Savaraj was saying, he was using strong language, and in this one, I think his language is even stronger. And in his historical time, Omar was not appreciated by all. He encountered in his life a lot of pushback against him. And it reminded me of how, in a bit of not quite as drastic here, about how Christ went in the temple and criticized the Pharisees and the temple priests for making a mockery, as you said, of religion. And it's, in a sense, Omar is doing a little bit of that here, and you can see that the people he was speaking against and toward might not have actually appreciated it. And there was pushback to him. Even historically afterwards, there was a reaction against how his approach. And so, because he is speaking quite strongly. He was speaking very.
And I particularly like, he says, now that I have one life, I want to just highlight this. One glimpse of it, that divine light within the tavern court. So I'm in this body. We are those souls and energy who just, got this one life. So let us utilize these precious years of our life in going inwards and trying to go the inner silence, which seems to have got drowned in this, the noise that is there, that has been made to with all the religious gurus or whatever, the false pseudo teachings that they have, and a lot of things that we have to do. They're fooling most of the people and telling them that, they're putting them in fear. Actually, God is not to be feared. God is not to be feared. So that is
just one glimpse of the truth, and you know. And that's what all of us our hearts are longing for, that glimpse, just one glimpse in the midst of darkness. Very good. Any other thoughts and comments? Well, how would you sum this one up?
I'll just sum with God is within us all, and we need not go anywhere to seek him. Just commune with him and be in eternal bliss.
That's all. It sounds so easy. It should be, but we struggle. Okay, very good. So want to move on to number 57?
Yeah,
I just, Quatrain 57. O thou who didst with pitfall and with gin beset the road I was to wander in, thou will not with predestination round enmesh me and impute my fall to sin. And the paraphrase says, the soul speaks here to the ego. So actually, this is the dialogue between the soul and the pseudo soul, which we call the ego. And there's a dialogue between the two. And the soul it says, it was you alone who tore up the road I was to travel to soul freedom. So the soul is telling ego, the quicksands of ignorance that you created sucked me down repeatedly to spiritual death. Your drunken sense pleasures in which you reveled to stupefaction dulled my finer perception of divine wisdom. Will you now blame my fall on outward influences, on predestination, or on Satan? So there's a whole thing where the soul is talking to the pseudo soul who, he made up this false thing, and you made me live and believe that, make me a prisoner of my personality, and I was caught up in all that. So I have now come to the realization that, and we all have this tendency to keep blaming people for everything that happens in life. We say, okay, and that's how we move on and say, oh, I'm like this probably because my parents did this or whatever, or this is how I behave because my husband is like this. So we're always blaming somebody else for the way we are, and we never reflect in our own selves and try to see what is it that we can improve in ourselves. So most of the time we are not working on ourselves when you're trying to just blame the circumstances. I think this is exactly what this Quatrain is trying to address. At the end of the day, they say, accept everything that happens, in your life. It's not because of some outer circumstances or because of the people. So if you really go in, you'll understand that, and if you're guided by that inner light within, things, everything outside also becomes good, they say. Most of the time it is like that. So the social conditioning and the conditioning that we have to blame others for whatever situation we are in, we need to rise above that. And for that, the only way out is again meditate and go in. And I think this is what it's trying to say. Anybody else wants to say anything? And finally, the soul is trying to tell, like, don't you try to keep me a prisoner of my personality and the false bliss that you gave me the good picture about. I have realized that it's not that. The true freedom and true bliss is, it's all inside me. It's all inside me. It's all inside me.
I think in this expanded meaning, right, that last paragraph, only by perfect self-honesty and dynamic self-effort will you eliminate forever the influence of satanic delusion in your life. Remember, it was you who invited that influence by your own thoughts and actions. Live from today onward, guided by divine wisdom from within. So, in other words, take control of your life, and we can do it. It's hopeful. It's hopeful. And when it's not accusatory, it's hopeful.
And I particularly like the editorial comment also. What about the Danda Swamis that they have talked about? The editorial comment. So where they're saying Danda is the long straight staff that certain Swamis carry, symbolic of the spine. So let's live in the spine. So that they're trying to say that it's a statement which says, I am the center of my own universe. The sole cause of all that happens in my life. Everything is because of me. No outer circumstances condition my inner sense of who I am. In my divine self, I am forever free. This is, I mean, it just is what this Quatrain is trying to also say. So any other comments from anyone else? So it's just a dialogue between the soul and the ego.
Yeah, yeah. This is very good, very good. Okay, if you summed it up, or any comment, or
Yeah, he said the road I was to wander in. He says, this, he said the road I was to wander in, obstructed the path to wisdom and self-realization. So that the ego is obstructing the path to self-realization, which he wanted to attain. So we can.
Yeah, he's telling the ego only that you were the one who did all the, you made me, get into this thing of getting false happiness with sense pleasure and the wrong habits and everything.
Yes.
And you blocked my road to true wisdom and the actual divine wisdom and self-realization.
Self-realization. Yes.
Yeah.
So if you would sum that up, how would you sum it up?
I think it's just live in your spine and be guided by that divine inner wisdom, and accept that everything that happens is not because of outer circumstances or because of your past. Even if that something went wrong, you can always make amends and start afresh and, be the good and change that. So accept that everything that happens is not because of outer circumstances, but because of or because of people who happened in your life at some point in your journey. It's because of our own disconnection with the divine within. It's our disconnection with divine within. I think we can sum it up like that.
Good. Well, these, I find these Quatrains, they're very strong. They're strongly worded, all of them, this week. Okay. Savarajji, or is that?
Yes.
Are you there? Okay.
Yeah, it's mine. 58. O thou, who manna baser, earth didst make, and who with Eden didst devised the snake for all the sins wherewith the face of man is blackened. Man's forgiveness, give and take. So in the paraphrase, Master has written, he is now talking about the Saturn of Ignorance. O Saturn of Ignorance, by material temptations, you have changed man, made in God's image, into an inferior being. O evil force, it was you who in your wrath against all heavenly virtues and in your hatred of divine peace and self-control, devised the oft misused alluring, but happiness poisoning sex force coiled like a snake at the base of the spine. You it was who blackened with evil thoughts the divine image in man. You know where the responsibility rests? It is not man's alone. You owe him your forgiveness, and you owe it to him to ask for his forgiveness in return. See, as it is in the earlier Quatrain 57, here he is blaming the Saturn of Ignorance for all the miseries and misfortunes which he is facing now. Soul is telling the Saturn of Ignorance, you see, by material temptation, he was spoiled the God's divine image in a man's qualities. Because when the child is born, it has all the divine blessings of God, but due to the five senses that has been attracted by the child afterwards when it grows, that is all due to the Saturn of Ignorance, and that is why the man has been, which was man has been considered as the inferior being later on. And later on he says, since you don't like God's virtues, you made all your actions against God. That is, he by his delusion, Saturn has attracted all kinds of, this anger, hatred. The second expanded meaning, he says, it feeds human greed, selfishness, sex, temptation, anger, pride, hatred, and other ego-affirming traits. So Saturn works consciously to counteract the God manifesting remaining qualities of self-control, unselfishness, soul bliss, forgiveness, humbleness, and love. So he says, the soul says, you blackened with the evil thought the divine image of man. So who is responsible for this? And but one more question arises here. Who is responsible for God? When God has created this universe, he made it, is delusion also, it's God's creation. So whether man is responsible or Saturn is responsible. See, God has given you two ways. The snake, which is, in the form of energy in the spine, it has to be awakened and it has to be taken to the point between the eyebrows, so that that energy is, which is the gateway of heaven, we can say. But this energy, when it drains downward, he loses all his. So for that, who is to be blamed here? See, God has given you one way. There are two ways. One way is going to the gateway of kingdom. The other way is going to the worldly life. So it is discrimination of the man who chooses the path. So God has given, you see, man is considered to be supreme among all his creations because he has got the sixth sense. He'll be able to decide what is good for him, good for others, and what is bad for him or bad for others. He'll be able to discriminate. But if he does not use that sense, it is not neither the Saturn or ego are to be blamed. Partially man and partially they are responsible. That's what I feel Omar wanted to say here.
I always remember that Master used to argue with God. Said, God, you created us. It's your fault. And because you created us, it's your duty to help free us. And then he would have that conversation with God. You must free us because you're the one that created us. You must free us. Of course, we have our role to play too. But he encouraged to think personally like that to God, and that you have this, you're his child, and he must free you, and to remind him of that.
So when I read this line, and who with the ardent didst devise the snake. So I was just referring to an autobiography of Yogi, where Yugdeshwarji was telling the same lines, this forbidden fruits, which he was explained to Yogananda ji. There he says, shall I read it, sir?
Yes, yeah, go ahead, go forward.
Yeah. The spinal cord is like an upturned tree with man's hair as its roots and nerves as branches. The tree bears many enjoyable fruits, sensations of sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. In these, man may rightfully indulge, but he was forbidden the experience of sex, the apple at the center of the bodily garden. The serpent represents the coiled up spinal energy. Adam, man or reason. Eve is woman or feeling. As long as human mind is not tricked by the serpentine energy, reason and feeling remained in a heaven. As long as human mind is not tricked by the serpentine energy, reason and feeling remained in a heaven of cooperative joy. That's what he says. So knowledge of good and evil refers to the cosmic dualistic compulsion, falling under the sway of Maya through misuse of his feeling and reason of Eve and Adam consciousness. Man relinquishes his right to enter the heavenly garden of divine self-sufficiency. So man should accept responsibility for the fact that he yielded to tempt in the first place. So man he has to accept that's what Swamiji also says, temptation in the first place, in the expanded meaning.
It's such a divine mystery. To try to make sense of all this on the rational, intellectual plane is very difficult. But I think you come to the conclusion, I don't know where I came from. I don't know why I'm here, but I do know that I want to get out of this delusion, and I want to live in joy and the truth. And so, because sometimes you can get lost in the intellectuality of trying to figure out all of these very subtle permutations. And I think Master in elsewhere, he said, find God and you'll understand it all. In other words, you get into that God consciousness, then you'll understand and you can see it. And that's because I find I tend to be a little bit of an intellectual nature, and I try to make sense of it all. And it's somewhat, I think you just have to rely upon, I'm in delusion. I want to get out of delusion. Master, help me. And I'm going to do, he's given us the techniques to be able to do that. And I end up ultimately falling back upon that. It's just say, I'm going to go find God, and then I'll know the truth of all of this. Because anyway, you want to sum that up?
To sum up, I can say, see, we are all children of God, and God wants us to come back to Him joyfully. That is God's intention. So we can reach the kingdom of God with the strength of will and the clarity of wisdom. We have to use your wisdom. That's what I feel.
Yeah, that's good. Okay, let's move on to the next one. This would be number 59.
It's a newcomer.
Oh, good. Excellent. It's wonderful. We have a new voice. Excellent.
Okay. Quatrain 59. Listen again. One evening at the close of Ramzan, ere the better moon arose, in that old potter shop, I stood alone with the clay population round in rows. Paraphrase. Hear me carefully. I was seated one evening toward the close of meditation, ere the moon of divine insight had risen to my inward gaze. Introspectively, in the twilight aloneness of my soul, I pondered on that presence from which all creation flows, and by which countless souls are enhanced in human bodies. Some while I linger, withdrawn from the earthly hubbub, yet aware of it. So, we all know Ramzan is a holy month. During this time, devotees sincerely observe fasting the whole day and pray to God with a deep devotion. Master says in this holy month, one evening, the poet was meditating very deeply. He was enjoying the after effect of meditation. His soul was still and alone. Before he came out of meditation to outward life, his soul thought about the wonderful creation of the beautiful earth by God. Intuitively, he was able to see the place of creation, the potter shop. Here, the potter shop is referred as the creator. In this place, the poet saw countless souls in the form of clay, waiting to take further incarnations. So the poet was wondering how many births and deaths the souls had undergone again and again.
Yeah. Yeah. How many? How many?
In expanded meaning, Swamiji says, the longer one can enjoy the peaceful after effects of meditation, the more quickly he will develop intuition. So Swamiji advises gradual return to outer life after meditation. So I feel this is what Omar says in this part.
Yeah, yeah. That's a beautiful one. That's a very beautiful one. So is that your summation? Would that be your two line summation?
Yeah. Meditate deeply with devotion and enjoy the divine aspects of God. There is one.
That's
The other one is continue to maintain the aspects of God when you return to outward life.
Yes, yes. Let's remember that. Let's remember that. That's the hard part. Sometimes we forget, and we usually forget.
Yeah.
Okay. Is it Jagadish now?
Hello, friends.
Oh, you're still with us. Good, 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 good.
Definitely, definitely. Okay, so Quatrain 60, that's page 282. And strange to tell among the earthen lot, some could articulate while others not. And suddenly one more impatient cried, who is the potter, pray, and who is the pot? The paraphrase, how strange that, although the human race evolved from a common prototype, human beings are so vastly diverse. Some are wise, others are steeped in ignorance. Some are bright and intelligent, others dull and stupid. Some are insightful and deft at expressing themselves, others cannot give clear utterance to the simplest thought. And yet, the fullness of divine truth resides within them all equally. Why this incongruity? Few comprehend the reason. They blame fate. They blame a whimsical God. Shaking their fists in anger at the universe, they declare themselves atheists. Occasionally, alas, too rarely, someone will ponder life's deeper meaning. In deep introspection, he will express an urgent desire for understanding. Who is the creator of this body, he cries, and what, pray, is the mystery of our existence? So I think in continuation from Quatrain 59 and also in the next one, these are almost like a break I feel, to the highly poetic language, these are pretty much like very straightforward. You know, I feel as if this one, it's very clear what it's talking about, right? And you know, before I get any farther, let me offer my 2 sentences right now. Yeah. Some are lost in the endless variations of human nature, while some are compelled by a spiritual thirst to seek for God. And I think a continuation from Quatrain 59 is that you meditate, and then things like this begin to appear. But if you don't, then you end up waddling in, you know, these endless highs and lows, and this person is bad, this person is good, and just being very much caught in worldly drama. Oddly enough, when I was reading this Quatrain and also in the next one, I thought about a lot on what language, like how, I should say, how language indicates like people's mindset. So I feel like in the past 10 years, what has entered into popular saying is like, I own this, you know? When in actuality, it means that I take responsibility for it, right? Like when the Boeing crashed, I remember like the CEO was like, we own this. Almost like it's a very hard way of proclaiming that, yes, I'm taking responsibility for it, but you know, we're owning it. It's a very kind of like very solid way. I don't know how else to explain it. And it really and it's also like it gave me the inspiration to think about more of like when we want to encourage someone to be better at something, we say now like, you got this, you know what I mean? Or like, you know, like you have the ability to do this. It's such a very solid form. And I think this Quatrain made me think of that. Just kind of like in all these endless variations, we're still very much, some of us at least, are still very much trapped in that way of thinking, you know, of this very solid, very heavy way of thinking. While others, when we meditate, when we strive for like a higher purpose, we relate to the world in a much different way. So.
Thank you. And I mean, I took it, the thing that struck me is in this paraphrase, occasionally, alas too rarely, someone will ponder life's deeper meaning. And who is the creator of this body? And what, pray, is the mystery of our existence? And I think this is one of the marks when a person actually begins to ponder that question. It's kind of the mark of a person is on the spiritual path. Most people, you could say, they don't even consider it. There's no that inability to step out of oneself and even consider these more ethereal questions. But some do. And I think whether one comes up with an answer or not, that's just a matter of time. Because I think once a person starts to ask that question, I don't think they really can rest until they follow it out to the end. And that's sort of the mark. A person has stepped onto that path for better or worse. A person can kind of drown out perhaps because they don't like, they don't like the implications of it. But even then, that seed is planted. And once that seed's planted, it's like you've got to follow it. And you're almost impelled. Even though you may toss it aside for a while, it's going to come back. So in a sense, I think that marks, I think all of us here probably in some form or another have asked that question. What is this reality all about? And I think that's what and I think, even when I see people that aren't particularly outwardly on the spiritual path, and especially if I see it in young people, actually having that question, and they may express it rather crudely, I admire that. I compliment that. You're asking that question And that's good to have to that's good. May take a while to get an answer, but that's good.
I have
So-
a question
Yeah.
on this. I just on the expanded meaning on to page number 284, fourth paragraph. And he says, every variation in human nature, wisdom and ignorance, intelligence and stupidity, eloquence and inarticulateness is due not to any arbitrariness on the potter's part. Rather, human beings once chose to be what they've become. So, I mean, I can question, I have a question in mind. I know we choose what we become. It's our choice, but then so many times we end up choosing because of the situation that we are in, and we're not, I don't know, it's like whether you should, it's again come back to what I was just speaking about. Let's not blame the circumstances, let's not blame the people around of what we've become. Wherever we are, once we've touched that light and we've been guided, like in our case, Master, if you come to that new path and we realize that whatever we did in the past, those mistakes and all can all be, we can't undo it, but we can start from wherever we are and go towards that good or whatever. But I like what Jagadish was just saying. I don't know whom to blame, the potter, that he's put us in a place where we can't, be brilliant, even if we want to, because of some kind of challenges in some way, monetary, or I don't know, maybe where we are born. Should we blame it? And can we come out of it? And how can we, or maybe if we've attained that, we've come to this path, we should take this opportunity to spread the light that we have touched and try and reach out to more and more people, so they also come out of that delusional life that they are leading. I don't know. Would anybody would like to reflect on this?
Well, I want to ask a question of you and anybody. Have you ever thought in your conversation with God or with the universe saying, I don't remember ever choosing this. When did I make this choice? And I suspect somewhat is the answer is there's no one big choice. It's a compilation of a million little choices along the way that all add up to the big choice. And probably it's not even a conscious choice. It's somewhat little habits, little attitudes, little inclinations, and they all add up to something in the end. But I don't remember making the choice. And so in a sense, God, it's your fault. You got me here. You better get me out of here. Anyway, anybody else have an answer for any of this?
Or are those desires which we are just, and that is what turns out to be making that choice and coming here?
Yeah,
Fulfillment of those desires.
yeah. Perhaps, yeah.
Absolutely.
It makes me think of that title Swami has in his Bhagavad Gita, Why Fight? That we spend a lot of time not realizing or not accepting that there's no option. If you don't go up, the universe is going to put you down. You will end up with, it's like, again, you don't use your tools, they're going to get blunted. So as we start applying ourselves, we do realize that however heavy of a karma we may have built, Swami says, well, finally now you have the awareness, you understand God is with you, Guru is with you, you have to do your part. So that discrimination also comes very quickly. Once we really accept what is going on. In the past, we may have been ignorant on many levels, as you said.
Jayaji, to your point earlier about you admiring, kids who are asking these questions, I think on this topic that we're talking about, it's like that classic teenage consciousness, right? When they speak to their parents, it's like, I didn't ask to be born, I didn't choose this family, So then it's like, Well, in fact, kid,
You did. You
you
did.
did.
Yeah, it's always the good comeback, isn't it?
What
Well,
an incentive to get, you know, the family into the spiritual path, you know, just to prepare for the teenage years, right?
yeah, it is.
I hope that you guys can continue this conversation for at least a little bit more, because I have the next Quatrain, but I have to go give my relative her
No, I
medication.
tell you what, how about we're at the end of our hour. You come back, you lead off next week.
Bless you, friends. Bless you. Good night.
Okay, bye-bye. Have whatever he was going to. Anyway, thank you all for coming again. This is fun. We must be getting toward the last quarter of the book, and so a few more weeks, and I think we'll be wrapping it up. So see you all next week, and may you have a wonderful week ahead of you. Joy to you.